You are going to learn how to quickly set up and balance the Zhiyun Crane M3 gimbal for vloggers. If you have not yet purchased this gimbal, I have an entirely separate video giving my honest feedback and a review of this gimbal. And you can watch that video by clicking the link above or the link in the description below. But in this video, I'm just going to show you how to set it up and how to balance it. It's really important to balance your gimbal correctly so that you don't burn out the motors and you save as much battery life as possible, and so that you get the smoothest footage possible. Okay, so let's start by balancing the gimbal. When you first buy the gimbal and take it out of the bag, it'll probably look something like this, and your motors might be locked. It was a little bit hard for me to find where the locks were on the motors, but on the tilt motor on the very top, there's a little knob right here. And so you just click that to unlock. You click the bottom here on the roll motor to unlock it. And I'm just gonna put these all in the various lock modes so that now the gimbal is not moving around too much. When you buy the Zhiyun Crane M3, you can specify what type of camera you have and they'll send you a custom base plate for your specific type of camera. But for this demo, I'm gonna be using the all-around, all-purpose base plate that will work for almost any camera. I'm just using an old Pentax here, and this weighs about the same as a Sony a6500. So to attach the base plate to the camera, you want these little arrows pointing to your right. So if you hold the camera out in front of you with the lens pointing away from you, you want the arrows pointing to your right. And you're gonna screw that in like so. Let me just do it like this and then I'll show you really quick. So once you have the base plate screwed on, you should see that the arrows are pointing to your right if you have the lens pointing away from you. And then just use a screwdriver or a knife to make sure that the base plate is in nice and tight so you don't lose your camera off the gimbal while you're shooting. Okay, so once you have the base plate in, take your gimbal and you'll notice that this is like in a V shape with a little latch here. And you're gonna just slide it into this mount. But first, make sure the roll axis motor, that's the motor on the back, is pointing towards you. And you're going to press and hold the unlock button on this bracket here, this mount. And then I'm just going to slide in the gimbal like that. And then it just clicks right in. So that's step one. Remember that your motors are locked. I just showed you that. You want these all in lock so that the gimbal is not flailing around. And now what you're gonna do is unlock the top motor. And when you do that, you should be able to freely rotate the camera, tilting it up and down. And so the first thing you wanna do is point the camera straight. So let's just point it this way so you can see what I'm talking about. And then adjust the gimbal so that when you let go of the camera, the lens will continue pointing straight. So it's just micro movements here. I'm just kind of getting a feel for it. So for example, I went too far back, now the camera drops this way. If I go too far forward, the camera will drop down like that. You want the center of gravity of the camera to be in line with the center of this motor. So imagine a little line running through the center of this motor. That's where you want to line up the center of gravity of your camera. And just make little micro movements. You'd be surprised about how little of adjustments you need to make to get it balanced. And you can see I'm almost getting there. And look, when I stop there, the camera doesn't move down or up. It's completely flat, so I found the right spot and now I lock it in. Second, you want to point your camera up and you're going to unscrew this knob at the front and then make, again, micro adjustments. And the goal is to get the camera lens to stay pointing up. So I'm gonna remove this, or untighten this, I should say. And then I can slide the camera like so. If I slide it too far, you can see it'll go down like that. If I slide it too far that way, it goes down like that. You want the lens pointing straight to the sky. And somewhere like like that. I'm not gonna get it perfect for the purposes of this video, but you'll get the hang of it. And so now you can see if I let go, the lens is pointing straight up, so that's the right position. And then I just want to tighten this knob. I'll give you a little tip for when you're balancing your gimbal. At first it can be very frustrating. I've almost thrown my gimbals out the window many times, but just if you're getting frustrated, take a break, take a pause, go to the kitchen, get a drink of water, whatever, and then come back and just don't get frustrated. You will get the hang of it. Once you figure out how to do it the first time, you'll be able to balance it very quickly. So once we have those two knobs in the right position, you might have to come back and make little tiny adjustments to your first one. There you go. And then the next step is to adjust the roll motor. So again, at the bottom here, there's a little click. You just click that to unlock it. And now you can see that the camera rolls. And here you see that the camera is too far to the left. So when I let go, it's dropping to the left. If I were to have it too far to the right, when I let go, it drops to the right. So remember the center of gravity trick. You want the center of gravity of this camera and base plate to be in line with the center of this motor. So right now it's too far this way, and now it's too far that way. So you want to get it right in the middle, and that's pretty good. I'm not going to do it perfectly. And then you just lock that like so. And then finally, the bottom motor. So this is the pan motor. Again, there's another lock right here on the right. Just make sure it's unlocked. Pull open the knob. Before I go any further, I'd just like to say that I create these videos to help people like you that need help setting up and balancing gimbals. And if you made it this far, you're probably enjoying the video, and you can help me out by clicking the like and subscribe button. When you click like, the YouTube algorithm will show this video to more people. And by clicking subscribe, you can help me make more of these videos in the future. Thank you for your support. And now the final motor to balance is the pan motor. That's the one on the bottom. If you haven't unlocked it already, just go ahead and unlock it. And this one is probably the trickiest. So what I like to do is lock all of the other motors that we just balanced so that they're not moving. Only the pan motor is moving. And now you hold the gimbal parallel to the ground, push it to the side so that the lens is facing you, open up the latch, and when you have this balanced correctly, you can see that the camera, the lens will be facing parallel to the ground. If it's not balanced correctly, it'll go something like that, and it'll point either down or it'll point up. So you want the lens to point parallel to the ground. And this is the trickiest one, I warned you, but you will get it. And something like that. So as you can see, now when I let go, the lens is pointing parallel to the ground. And so now I just lock the latch. All right. When the gimbal is balanced correctly, you should be able to unlock all of the motors and then point it in any direction, and it should stay in that direction. So this is not perfectly balanced. So I'm gonna actually come back here and make some more micro adjustments. So I'm just gonna open this top one, pull it back like 1/2 millimeter. I mean, it's really tiny adjustments. The slightest movement will change the balance. So now if I point it up, you can see it's staying. If I point it this way, it stays there. So that is a perfectly balanced gimbal. All right, now I'll show you some of the buttons on this gimbal. So the power button is right here on the side. You just press and hold it down for a couple seconds to turn it on. You can see that the M3 logo lights up, which is pretty cool. And once you have the gimbal on, you want to go into the settings. So this is a touchscreen. You can actually just click right here on settings. And the first option is called auto calibration. It's really important that you auto calibrate so that the gimbal senses the weight and the distribution of the balance of the gimbal. So set it down on a flat surface and then touch auto calibrate and click start calibrate, and the gimbal starts shaking. It's like, looks like it's vibrating. And what it's doing is just sensing the weight and the balance of the gimbal. So just give it a few seconds. So once it's done calibrating, it'll say successful. And to get back to the main menu, just click the top left, there's a little arrow. And what you'll see is that you have the mode, balance, info, and settings. So let's talk about the modes for a second. The most common mode I think you'll use is pan follow. Let me just remove this tripod for 1 second. And what pan follow does is when you pan to the left, pan to the right, the camera follows. But if I tilt down or tilt up, you'll notice that the lens stays straight. The next mode is lock mode. So no matter which way I twist and turn the gimbal and so on, you can see that it stays pointing straight. Then you have follow mode. So if I pan right, it follows. If I pan left, if I tilt down, if I tilt up. But if I roll, you can see that it stays level. It stays parallel with the ground. If I want it to follow me in all directions, I go to point of view mode. So now even if I tilt right, or sorry, if I roll right or if I roll left, the camera follows. Then you also have go mode, which basically just reacts faster to your movements. This is like if you're running or following someone on a bike or something, it's like kind of like the action mode. You also have portrait mode, which if you want to film something vertically, you know, like you're filming something for like Instagram stories or for your mobile phone. And you have vortex mode, which is also sometimes called the Alfred Hitchcock effect. And you can walk forward and roll your camera like this. I don't ever really use it, but most gimbals have it these days anyway. If you're in pan follow mode, you can actually set the direction you want your gimbal to point. So I can move the gimbal with my hands and hold it there for 2 seconds, and then the gimbal will lock in that direction. So that's in pan follow mode. You point to where you want, and then you hold for 2 seconds and let go, and it'll stay where you are pointing. If you want to reset the gimbal forward, you double tap the trigger. And if you want to go into selfie mode, you triple tap the trigger. And this is obviously great for vlogging. And then you triple tap again to go back. If you want to turn on the 800 lumens adjustable light, then you press and hold on this thumb wheel on the left of the gimbal. And then if you want to adjust the color temperature, you tap once on the thumb wheel and then scroll up or down. And if you want to adjust the brightness, you tap again, and you can go up to 100 or all the way down to 10. This is one of the greatest features of this gimbal, and if you haven't seen my full review video, I highly recommend it. I give you my honest opinion and feedback, and I let you know if this gimbal is worth it. But for now, I'm just going to turn it off. And then turn it off by holding down 2 seconds on the thumb wheel. And if you connect your camera with a USB-C cable to the gimbal, then you can control things like aperture, shutter speed, ISO, etc. through this little scroll wheel in the front. And then if you want to quickly change modes, you can press this M button here. And if you want to start recording video and your camera's connected to the gimbal, you can press the little, I call it the minus sign right here. And that is pretty much it. That's how you set up and balance the gimbal. These gimbals are designed to be very easy to use, so it's not that hard to set up at all. You can purchase it and be up and shooting in like 10 minutes. Just keep in mind that you want it to be fully charged before you start using it. It takes about an hour to 2 hours to fully charge out of the box, but then it should last up to about 7 or 8 hours. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I love these gimbals. Zhiyun is my favorite brand, and I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below. I try to respond to all questions within 48 hours.